All right, so like one of the most common issues that not only like sales books, but also advisors that are coming in and asking us questions about how to handle certain situations. One of like the most frequent issues that I continue to see is our unmotivated prospects, folks that are, they booked an appointment with you, but they had no real intent. They were just kind of looking around. They don't seem like they actually want to do anything with you. There's certainly people that come to workshops that don't want an appointment. We've heard about plate lickers. There's just so many unmotivated clients out there. And I thought it'd be really good to just talk a little bit about some of the best tips for how to handle situations like that. What do we do to motivate the unmotivated? There are really 4 big key points that I try to keep in mind that I've learned over my career from some of the best advisors out there on how they've handled these unmotivated situations. And these 4 keys have helped me tremendously in getting to really the bottom of the motivation factors behind folks. And everybody's a little bit different. No matter what the circumstance, the first thing almost every salesman's process should be to get the prospect talking. Some people call this rapport building. Some people call this fact-finding, discovery appointments, whatever you want to call it. Same thing. We're trying to get the prospect talking. The problem with it is too many folks will go into it thinking, man, I really got to start talking a lot about myself and what I do and what I like and build rapport, like talking about the sports teams I like and talking about fishing or golf. Whatever my hobbies might be. These are not the core founding things of getting a prospect to open up. And that's really the goal behind rapport building is, what do people love? They love to talk about themselves. And so you always want to keep in mind, in the back of your mind, that I should be doing half as much talking as I am listening. I should be listening a ton to the prospect. And I should be asking open-ended questions, thought-provoking questions. This is probably at the core of every sales book that you will ever read. And it is something that probably every one of you watching this show know in the back of your mind, but very few of you actually do. And I think if you look at your sales process with a lens of critique, you will find that you aren't doing as good a job at that as you think. So many people are uncomfortable with silence and awkward nature. And you should be trying to create a warm and welcoming environment. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't lead in a conversation, but it should be asking questions that are thought-provoking, getting deeper than just surface-level material. Sports and hobbies, these are fun things to talk about, and they might make the prospect, let's say, comfortable in their situation, but it still makes a harsh transition when you start wanting to talk about business. You'll see that awkward transition where they clam back up no matter what when you shift from talking about sports to talking about their personal finances or whatever it might be as far as topic goes. And so a better strategy for most folks is one of my favorite things is the 5 whys. And try not to take this too literally. I don't know that this is meant to be taken literally, but almost like a toddler would ask, we want to ask why repeatedly so that the prospect can start to figure out the reasons why they are here today, right? And so while I might start with, a brief introduction of saying something like, hey, I'm Al. I'm so glad that you were able to come in today. What brings you in today? Why are we here? What are we talking about necessarily? And they might have some surface level thing. Well, I'm about to retire. I don't really know what necessarily where to start. And so I figured I'd start here. I was like, okay, well, why are you looking to retire? The next question is another why. And that seems like a silly thing. Of course, everybody wants to retire, but it's important to get the prospect, again, talking about the subject matter. And so I'm trying to get them talking about the situation, and I'm also trying to get them thinking. Maybe more importantly, I'm trying to get them thinking. Eventually, the theory says that after about 5 of these why circumstances, and quite frankly, you could swap the whys with whats and hows and whens, but after 5 of those situations, you'll find the prospect in a really deep place. maybe a hardship of theirs or a circumstance that they're trying to avoid. And that little nugget there should give you a good indication of whether this is a motivated client or an unmotivated client. And if it's a motivated client, then I'm going to proceed in one direction. If they're unmotivated, I'm going to continue down this path, but eventually I'm going to learn the exact way that I will then end up closing them. And all you need to do is pay attention and listen. So again, using the whys to get the prospect talking and thinking. Now, the second most important step in motivating the unmotivated is really deciding whether this person can be motivated. You need to be very clear and concise and quick to identify these situations so that you don't continue on with the path of trying to motivate somebody that never can be motivated. We're not trying to do the impossible here. We are trying to be efficient with our time. We're trying to make sure that we only work with clients that actually can do what we're talking about. And so, of course, we want to do fact-finding missions, and we want to get down to the core of do they have assets that we might be able to move or what have you. And so I need to do that quickly and efficiently. And the 5 whys will get me close to their core reason on why they're here and maybe get to a really deep place. But I then need to transition, and this portion can be a very quick portion, to deciding whether they can solve their problem, can solve their why. Because there's plenty of folks out there that we just can't solve anything for. The other folks are buyers in power, is what I like to call them, buyers in power. The reason they're unmotivated is because they have all the power in the when they do this thing. There's so many sales folks in our industry that they get opportunities, prospects that come to their workshops or people that book appointments with them that are in desperate need of what they saw or have or what they sell. And they will do anything to get on your schedule, and they seem to be very quick. They might even say like, hey, I've researched this and I need your advice on this. I'm looking for advice on this. And I find a lot of advisors, they obviously have no problem closing those deals. And you could probably make a very good living in this business closing on folks that need what you're selling. But what we're interested in doing to becoming a great producer, what separates the good producers from the great producers seems to be their ability to not only close on the layup sales, but also close on the 3 points and the jump shots, right? So the folks that are unmotivated or buyers in power, right? And that's the reason we're talking today. And so, but you need to identify which camp do they fall in. Are they unmotivated because they can't be motivated, or are they unmotivated and have assets? And I just need to find some inspiration for them. And that really is the definition. Do they have assets or do they not have assets? Are they unmotivated and unwilling to move forward in your sales process because they just don't have the money to do it? Or are they motivated or unmotivated just because they have the power to not need this thing right now and have the power to maybe shop their options? And so if it's the former or if it's the latter camp and they're a buyer in power, then we proceed with the sales process. We proceed with the other tips on how to motivate those folks. And so the second big thing in motivating the unmotivated is identifying if they can be motivated. So I know the pain from the first step, and I know they have the ability to solve that pain. And now my last real goal is to get them to recognize that they need to try and conquer this today, right? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to disturb and disrupt. And this seems maybe vague. This seems like, what does that mean? I have to choose from all these different options. Not necessarily, because if you've done the 5 whys the right way, if in the first step you really got them to explore the deep depths of the reason why they're here, disturb and disrupting them should be as obvious as anything. It should be right there in front of you. Well, you just mentioned that you were anxious about this. Well, you just mentioned that you're scared about running out of money. You just mentioned that your family has a health issue and dies prematurely in retirement, and all the more reason to get a plan together. And then what I'll do is I'll explain to them what my situation looks like. So what it would look like to do business with me and what the process looks like from here and the harmless nature of it and the consequences of not doing that. And so for a lot of folks out there, I see them kind of explore and maybe even do that first part where they're like, oh yeah, well look, this is kind of what we do and this is how you would benefit from something like that. And they're all good at the value propositions, but they don't go out and show them what the road looks like if they venture off and try and do this either on their own or go looking for other advisors. And I think it's important for you to do that. Here's the reason why. If I don't explain what that road's going to look like, if I don't go out there and tell them something like, hey, look, if we don't do this, here's what it's going to look like for you. You're going to go out, you're going to start searching the internet. You may have already done that by now already. And you're going to find a bunch of contradicting information, a ton of information out there. That's what I'm here for. You go out there, you start Google searching, you're going to find one expert that says one thing, one expert that disagrees with them. Today's financial advisor is not necessarily about access information. It's about deciphering all the information out there and finding what's relevant for you, right? That's what a good financial advisor does for you. And so you could go out and you could talk to that advisor, talk to this advisor, and get all kinds of different information. But our process is a little different, and this is why so many people go out around that bend and end up right back here doing the same thing anyway. And so we offer them a little bit of a shortcut by doing that. But what also does is it's almost a riskless proposition to explain what the rest of the world looks like when you're in the driver's seat. If they are going to go out there and do it, and you know that so many people are going to go hit the internet and find contradictory information, or they're going to hit a bunch of different Social Security presentations or workshops about retirement planning, and they're going to find contradicting information. When you've prefaced it to be like that, and then they go out and they experience that in the real world, what do you think it does for them? It solidifies that, hey man, that guy I talked to, that Alex guy, he knew what he was talking about. I mean, it's exactly how he said it was going to go down, and now it's going down out here. What it does in the subconscious of that person is it validates not only what I said about the outside world, but everything else we talked about in that meeting. And so they end up back at you. So it's kind of a riskless thing. But what you'll often find is people don't even want to bother with it. You're right, you know what? That's fine. Let's explore it with you. I'm fine with that. And then once I get them over that hump of deciding to explore the world of retirement planning and allowing me to put a plan together for them, I live and die by some words of a great mentor. And this is really the final key of motivating the unmotivated. The unmotivated, these buyers in power, they have that power because they generally are powerful in nature in their lives. They like to dictate things. They like to be in control of how their world works. And they don't like when they feel like they're being sold. Everybody likes to buy. Nobody likes to be sold. And so the sales presentation, or the way I go about providing my services, is about leading, not pushing. So many advisors out there are pushy by nature. Your approach should be more, at least in my experience, should be more about trying to understand what they want and being an advocate to helping them achieve it, giving them guidance and defining how things work, clarifying things for them, and then giving them the choice of which path to go down. Hey, both are great options. You want that thing and you want this thing, but they're both great options. Let me explain kind of what this option is and what this option, and we can go either way. This option does this, and this option does this. This is what clients don't love about this. This is what clients don't love. I mean, you've mentioned to me a few times that you kind of don't like this kind of thing, but you tell me which one looks better. And, okay, we're going to go this way. Once we go this way, it's the next set of decisions. And again, that's the new world of sales. It's not about you have access to information that they don't have access. That's a rookie move nowadays. Your job as a salesperson in today's sales environment with the internet and all the access to information, you don't have any unique access really that they can't get at their fingertips. And so you have to assume that they probably have done some research or could do some research on the topic. And so your job is dissemination of information, is taking all this information and helping them understand what they're looking at so that they can make an educated decision and being along for the ride. Obviously, the access to the actual product at the end, they're going to need to go through you. And if you've helped them along this journey, they're obviously going to want to do it with you. And so these are the big tactics of looking at unmotivated prospects and trying to get them motivated. We want to make sure we get them talking. We want to make sure that we identify if they actually are able to solve their problem. And then once I know that they can solve their pain, I want to disturb and disrupt them and start down the path of leading them to their desired endpoint. Those are the keys to motivating the unmotivated. So as always, like the video if you enjoyed today's session, or if you learned something new. Obviously, that helps us a bunch if you're liking the videos or if you're throwing a comment in there. And of course, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We love to have new subscribers come in. You'll automatically get it updated if you hit that little notification bell there on anytime we're pumping out new content. If you have ideas about new content, we're always looking for new ideas, new sales tips or topics to talk about. We've got some of the brightest minds to tap into. I'm sure there is not any question we couldn't answer on the show, and we would love to do it. So we'd love to hear from you. Throw comments in the section if you have anything. If not, we'll see you next time.